Not every sci-fi show gets the spotlight it deserves. Some get buried under bad marketing, wrong time slots, or just plain bad luck. You'd think they would be forgotten into oblivion, but hold up, we aren't letting go of these iconic masterpieces we almost grew up with. These criminally underrated shows changed the way pop culture would shape up in the years to come. They made our childhood so awesome that even today we find ourselves humming the title track. As we surf the wave of nostalgia, we wonder why these shows didn't receive the recognition they truly deserve. This isn't your typical Rick and Morty or Clone Wars. This is deep cut territory. Fair warning for the real fans who dig deep, we bring to you today the 10 underrated sci-fi animated series of all time. So what are you waiting for? Let's begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Silverhawks, 1986. If you were an 80s or 90s kid, you probably grew up watching The Silverhawks, a 1986 animated series where a group of space cops, led by Commander Stargazer, chases the bad guys through space. Intergalactic crime is peaking like never before. All hell breaks loose when Monstar escapes from prison and forms his iconic group of villains known as the Mob. Together they plan to rule the Limbo Galaxy from the evil planet of Brimstar. To add to the trouble, Monstar's light would help Monstar to rise into his stronger form. To counter this menace, Stargazer asks for help from the Federal Interplanetary Force. In response, 5 Silverhawks are chosen as Space Patrol, led by Quicksilver, and reporting to Stargazer. In their fight against intergalactic crime, the Silverhawks were quite the rage, but equally memorable are its iconic villains that match up in powers and strength. Silverhawks is basically a space operatic ripoff of Thundercats, so you get the best of both worlds, right? Monstar, very similar to Mum-Ra, would burst out of his own skin and emerge as a demonic cyborg. Slithering by his side is his obedient sidekick Yes Man, who is true to his name and speech. Then there is the Hardware, a troll with his backpack full of gadgets. Mumbo Jumbo, a minotaur on steroids. Buzzsaw, a robot with built-in blades. Molecular, the shapeshifter. Pokerface, a walking slot machine. Time Stopper, a teenage brat with a clock on his chest which could manipulate time. And Melodia, the queen of rock with a killer guitar. Literally. I remember how cheesy and corny the show was, especially with its linear plots and flat characters. But that's kind of what makes the show one of a kind. There's no over-the-top drama. It's a cartoon for kids, laced with nostalgia and reeking of simpler times. Those who are complaining about the characters breathing in space are missing the whole point. For God's sake, it's not a science exhibition. With sleek design, shiny visuals, and random bursts of colors, the show's futuristic buildings, high-tech machines, and fashionably cool characters were a treat to the eye. Just make a movie already.
We are the only uploads, but soon there will be others. A future will...
Pantheon, 2022 to 2023. While we talk about AI, this show took it a notch higher and introduced the concept of UI, uploaded intelligence. Back in 2001, Stephen Holstrom, the founder of the tech company Logarithms, was eyeing the possibility of digital immortality. You know, scanning the mind and uploading it on the cloud. That sort. Years after his death, the company continues to pursue his vision, even if that means making unethical modes. Fast forward to the present time. While teenager Maddie Kim is still grieving her deceased father, she receives help from a mysterious figure online. Soon she learns that it's her father's consciousness which was uploaded to Logarithm's cloud network. The company had used illegal and destructive means while keeping the truth hidden from Kim's family. Up next, we have Caspian Keys, a very smart teenager who's raised in a simulated environment, controlled and monitored by Logarithms. Why? Because he has a special purpose to fulfill. But he has zero clue about his own reality. When Maddie and Caspian get in touch, the duo hunts for the truth, and a series of evil secrets are unraveled. Back in India, another company has sprung up with the same vision as that of Logarithms, and Vinod Chanda meets the same fate as Maddie's dad. Chanda escapes his virtual imprisonment and emerges as a global threat. As the planet is pushed to the brink of a world war, can Maddie and Caspian restore things to normalcy? Or will they be prey to the technological uprising triggered by human greed? read. Pantheon is an hour-long speculative sci-fi drama based on Kin Liu's award-winning collection of short stories, The Gods Will Not Be Chained, The Gods Will Not Be Slain, and The Gods Have Not Died in Vain. With data privacy, speculative AI, and uninformed consent being relevant issues that are looming over our heads in the real world, Pantheon doesn't feel far from home. The series questions what it means to be truly human when the human body can be parsed into code and the soul transposed onto the screen. It tests the human limits of playing with creating a technological utopia that plays with God, nature, and evolution. Exo Squad, 1993 to 1994. The 22nd century is witnessing an interplanetary war between Homo sapiens and the Neo-Sapiens. The latter were artificially created as slaves to work for the Terrans. An elite Terran unit of mecha pilots called the Abe Squad, headed by Lieutenant Commander J.T. Marsh, is sent on missions all over the solar system. The commander's right-hand man is the French guy, Alec de Leon, working as the intelligence and communication specialist. It's no wonder that the introverted Margaret Maggie Weston, the field repair specialist of the squad, has a hidden crush on Alec de Leon. Then there's Nara Burns, the inexperienced lieutenant who lost her parents to the Neo-Sapien assault on Venus. Deeply in love with her is the Neo-Sapien Marsala, a complex character serving in the Exo Fleet. Stoic, respectable, and insightful, you'll rarely find him fooling around with witty punchlines. Even when he's provoked, he'll remain calm. That's what makes the couple so memorable. Wolf Bronsky has been serving the Able Squad for the longest time, but he is at best a crack shot and a slob. But Bronsky commands immense knowledge of the arts, has a heart of gold, and is a thorough romantic deep down. Juxtaposed to his personality, we have Sergeant Rita Torres, who holds a soft spot for children and absolutely hates pirate clans. Second in command, she is the most perfect soldier the squad could have asked for. Kaz Takagi, like Nara, is another rookie who brings trouble to the group, and he considers Bronsky his mentor. We also get to see a lot of prominent pirates, jump troop squadrons, homeworld's resistance cells, and quite a few Neo-Sapien officers in the show. I think this show received less attention than it deserved because of its serious approach to the plot, where multiple narratives are intertwined. But what you're missing is that it's a show about a range of characters exhibiting diverse human emotions. There's friendship, love, hatred, personal tragedies, treachery, and taking responsibility for others. The best part is that it used espionage and intrigue instead of direct battle. Much of the show's success owes to its on-screen realism, where the future history of the solar system is speculated to be plagued with themes like interplanetary politics, racism, and space wars, making it an underappreciated gem in the history of animated TV shows.
He who possesses this sword possesses the power of truth.
Star Chaser: The Legend of Orin, 1985. The film is set 1,000 years into the future, that is, 2985. On the planet of Trinia lives a god named Zygon. On the subterranean mine world, where humans have lived for millennia, the evil overlord exploits workers as slaves. Orin is one of them, but little did he know that he was destined for greatness. One day, he discovers the hilt of a mythical sword that he alone can wield. Mastering the sword, he escapes from the clutches of Zygon, only to return to Mine World to save the fellow workers. To his aid, he has a rogue smuggler named Dag, a pair of helpful droids, and a princess. I can totally understand why this turned out to be an underrated gem. While the show is criticized for blatant copying of other works, I think it just picks the best parts from some of the best shows out there and adds a new flavor to it. The whole sword saga is very similar to the Legend of King Arthur, and I don't see anything wrong in that. The New York Times once even accused the show of being such a brazen ripoff of George Lucas's Star Wars that you might think lawyers would have been called in. Now, it's just perspective. Yes, Zygon's robot guards resemble the Cylon Centurions from the television series Battlestar Galactica from 1978, but are we complaining? Filled with buttons, spaceships, and anthropoid robots, these cosmic stories of the 80s were unique and way ahead of their time. They didn't have fancy tools for animation, and yet they managed to pull off decent visuals. But you know, it's one of those shows that you don't start watching as an adult. Rather, it's a cartoon that will bring back childhood to you. The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers, TV series 1986. The show fast-forwards to 100 years from now, that is, 2086, where a certain Queen of the Crown is leading an interstellar expansionist movement. In search of allies against the evil Queen, two aliens travel to Earth all the way from the planets of Andor and Kerwin. In return, they give mankind construction plans for a hyperdrive device, which becomes a canon event in the history of intergalactic space travel for humanity. But as is the case on Earth, as colonies grew in space, so did crime. To tackle this menace, a Bureau for Extraterrestrial Affairs, aka Beta, was founded, with its headquarters on Earth. A military and exploratory arm of Earth, Beta has a number of bases to cope with both the Crown and the evil lurking in space. The Longshot Research Facility in the Grand Canyon and the Beta Space Station in Earth's orbit were created precisely for this purpose. A Japanese-American animated space western television series, the show combines sci-fi with traditional Wild West themes. When it was first released, it was considered revolutionary in the genre of children's cartoons. At a time when creators relied on cliches to sell merch, this series defied all rules. The heroines were a piece of art, looking more believable, taking themselves more seriously, and actually saving men, instead of just being corny like modern heroines. The heroes aren't just pushing buttons to order bots to do their tasks. They actually make things happen. Each character was well crafted and exhibited a unique sense of humor that would resonate with the audience even today. Brave Star, 1987 to 1988. Imagine this stellar list of characters on the Wild West planet of New Texas in the 23rd century. Protector of peace and champion of justice, Marshal Brave Star is a lawman who can perform extraordinary feats. His superpower lies in being able to wield the abilities of his spirit animals. If you want to sharpen your vision to get an aerial view of the place, you have the Eyes of the Hawk. The strength of the bear will give you superhuman strength to cut through any giant stone or hold massive steel bridges. The speed of the puma makes him as fast as Quicksilver and the Flash. To his aid, he has 30-30, his cyberkinetic talking horse, and Deputy Fuzz, his sidekick, and Shaman, his mentor. With his special powers, he fights the sinister Tex Hex, the outlawed leader of the Carrion Bunch, a menacing group eyeing the mineral curium. As Brave Star enforces justice and brings peace to the desert land, each episode ends with a moral. And I think that's the best part about shows from the 80s. It was a great time for cartoons, and Brave Star stands among the very best. A kick-ass marshal, his unorthodox sidekick, an anthropomorphic biped, and some really cool shootouts in a western space setting. What more can a kid ask for? To top it all, it has a remarkable influence from the shamanic cultures of the southeast part of the United States of America and the northern regions of Mexico. Sure, it wasn't as grand as He-Man and She-Ra, where you get a dozen heroes to choose from, but it had a small cast of equally brilliant heroes who make you empathize with the affected characters. It's really a pity that Filmation chose to abruptly discontinue the series. Mark my words, just a simple reboot of the show can bring a new life to Marshal Brave Star and his iconic universe. Cyber 6, TV series 1999. Cyber 6 is a female superhero tasked with fighting the monster of the week. She was created by the evil Dr. von Richter, from whom she escaped to the city of Mary Diana. In the original comic book, Richter is alluded to as a Nazi, with Jose marching around like an SS guard. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Pretending to be a guy named Adrian Seidelman, she fights Richter's evil creatures at night, but by daytime, she returns to being a literature teacher at the local delinquent high school. Her brother, Data 7, soon joins her. Also joining the team are Cyber 6's colleagues and love interest, Lucas Amato, a student named Laurie Anderson in love with her male guys, and a wise kid named Julian, among others. There's no reason such a show would underperform, except that it sits on the fence and is unclear about its target demographic. The series was originally meant to be a more adult-oriented story enlivened with campy gender bending, vampirism, and not-so-vague references to drug addiction. But then they made hasty decisions and started telecasting it on Fox Kids. The heavy editing took away the essence of the show in the kid-friendly version, while actual fans of action, thriller, and violence were far from giving the show a fair chance due to the criticism, bad slots, and premature cancellation. In spite of such poor executive decisions that messed up an otherwise brilliant show, Cyber 6 has retained a cult following among fans who would love to watch the show being revived even after 2 decades. Invasion America, TV series 1998. It is the early 80s, and humanoid aliens from the distant planet of Tyrus plan to make contact with Earth. A civil war breaks out when the ruler of the planet, Kale Usha, and his uncle, the Dragot, do not see eye to eye. Uncle believes that invading Earth and exploiting its resources is the only way to save the dying planet of Tyrus. After this fallout, Kale escapes to Earth with Rafe, who happens to be his bodyguard, trainer, and best friend. Disguised as a human, Kale eventually falls in love with Rita Carter, a real human. They marry and have a beautiful son named David. But Kale eventually leaves his family under the care of Rafe and returns to Tyrus, where he unites and commands the loyal forces of Ushanti. Dragot soon finds his way to his nephew's family and is determined to kill them all. Can teenager David Carter stop his evil granduncle? In the end, it's all about gaining and losing friends and figuring himself out along the way. A fascinating story, right? The artwork plays it safe, drawing heavily from other animated series like Batman Beyond from 1999 and Roswell Conspiracies, Aliens, Myths, and Legends from 1999. Now, the show has weirdly received mixed reviews from fans and critics alike. The LA Times criticized the writing and called it a thin plot. If you're expecting some DC or Marvel-level multiverse, you shouldn't be watching Invasion America, at least. The show is unique because of how simple and yet engaging the plot can be, especially at a time when the turn of the millennium was hyping up everything complex and dynamic. Credit where it's due, even the New York Times was bound to admit that the animation was impressive. Kudos to that. Scavengers Reign, 2023. After the deep space freighter cargo Demeter 227 is damaged, its crew is stranded on the beautiful planet of Vesta. Bustling with alien flora and fauna, Vesta could be the hotspot of danger. Life here displays unusual complexity, challenging the earthly understanding of symbiosis and life cycles. The normal boundaries between plants, animals, intelligence, and non-living matter are hazed out. It's a complete visual and intellectual treat, to be honest. As they explore this wonder of a planet, the survivors are separated into 3 camps. First, we have Azzy, who's trying to grow crops with a robot companion Levi, who's actually very strange because of a yellow goo coating its internals. Levi has been a victim of the hostile wildlife destroying his homestead. Then there's Sam and Ursula, who try to retrieve a battery and revive their broken pod. Ursula almost dies in the mission. And finally, we have Cayman, who travels with a telekinetic creature named Hollow. As Cayman begins to lose his mind and get visions of his estranged wife Fiona, Hollow comes to his rescue. Before time runs out, they all must escape this living nightmare. Eventually, their paths converge in their quest for the site of the crash. This miniseries depicts how magic can be weaved when you blend the art of masterful storytelling with top-class animation. It kind of reminds me of Studio Ghibli animations. Nausicaa, to be precise. The frames are visceral, be it the pulsating ecosystem or the intricate detailing of the creatures. It's like every element in this universe has been carefully hand-picked. The cosmic horror is chilling, and the characters bring alive the fear of the unknown in a hostile atmosphere.
I have information that will lead to the capture of the renegade, but I am hardly as...
Tron Uprising, 2012 to 2013. Inside the virtual reality of the computer world of Grid, a young program named Beck leads a revolution to free his home. Hence, he launches a tactful mission against the military occupation by the evil Clue and his henchman named General Tesler. Now, Tron is the legendary warrior of the Grid, the best it has ever known. So Beck seeks training from Tron and becomes destined to emerge as the next Tron in the making. Not only does he gain mastery over skillful fighting, but also learns to wield the light cycles to his advantage. The series documents the journey of Beck as he transitions from a young and impulsive bot to a strong, power-laden tech nightmare for General Tesla and his oppressive forces. I still remember those days back in 2012 when this animated sci-fi spin-off of the Tron film series would be aired on Disney XD. Tron Uprising somewhat redeemed the franchise after it took a dip following the release of its recent film, Tron Evolution. A bit of anime and a bit of CG, the artwork is impressionistic and unique. They did a great job retaining the soundtrack, and Bruce Boxleitner reprising the role of Tron was a fantastic idea. Each episode tells a complete story while furthering the serialized plot. The thing about the whole Tron universe is that it's good, but it can be better. It's the same with the series. A little bit of work here and there, maybe good marketing or a more integrated storyline for that matter, would have been just what it was missing. Either way, the show continues to hold a dear place in the hearts of fans who can't wait to see more. Marvelous verdict. These criminally underrated cartoons may not have survived the test of time, but they were quite the rage when they were released. A crazy ride of wisdom, humor, and depth, these shows taught us a lot more than classrooms did. They teased our imagination, taught us things about space and tech, and created a virtual world we could immerse ourselves in. The spotlight evades them today, but they were the ones who rolled the ball. Even with their spotty animation and weak plot lines, they opened up the potential that the animated genre holds. So they aren't just cartoons for kids to while away time. These are some of the masterpieces created in the last 50 years, rebelling against the cliches of generic cartoons. Let us know in the comments your favorite shows, and we'll keep an eye out for those. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.